What if I told you that you can start a YouTube family business, build it up to earn a good living, and eventually turn that into making millions of dollars for your family? Well, I promise that by the end of this episode, you're going to hear just how that can happen. Because today I have a special guest. It's not just me on the show today. Today I have Rita Onyx, who's going to be talking about building a YouTube brand worth millions with your kid. Welcome to the In the Company of My Kids podcast. I'm Nikki Lewis. If you have kids and you have an entrepreneurial drive, then this podcast is where you'll learn how to make money, kids and parents together as partners through a YouTube channel business. All right, we're going to get right into this episode because Rita gave up so many good nuggets of information on how to monetize and how to expand it and how to just make millions and how to work with your family. All right, I don't want to give anything away, so we're going to jump right into the episode right now. All right, folks, today we have Rita Onyx of Onyx Family joining us, and we're taking it to the top today with Rita Onyx because her and her family have created a brand on YouTube that's reached over 6 million subscribers, over 3 billion views. Yes, a billion views with a B. In addition, they've expanded to many additional platforms, and they now have their own merchandise, books, their own magazine. How many people can say that? And even their own cartoon. Not too many people can say that either. So this is she and her family, they are a true testament to what you can achieve launching a business with your family starting on YouTube. And I have to mention that Rita is a very good friend of mine. So yeah, hopefully we won't go like 3 hours like our normal conversations. We gotta be concise with this one, Rita. But welcome to the In the Company of My Kids podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here. So today we're going to be talking about building a YouTube brand worth millions with your kids. So I gave a bit of your overview, but just talk about your family business for me starting on YouTube. How to get started and what's going on with you guys now.
Well, I feel like I've told this story a million times, but I always know that there's someone who has not heard it. And we basically got started because at the time I was a nurse practitioner and I was juggling several jobs. My husband had just left being a pastoral minister, a church minister, church pastor. And he went down with me. We were living in Florida at the time because I was not only juggling several jobs, that I was actually about to open a medical company. So I was stressed. I was the only one working at the time because my husband's Canadian. So when he came down to Florida, we were in the midst of getting his, permanent residency and everything. So I was the only one working and I was tired. I was stressed and I was starting to really wonder how would it be even when the medical company was fully up and running? Because at the time I was doing all the stuff behind the scenes, which was just like so much. If you're in the medical field, you have to go do credentialing with insurance. And I mean, it was crazy. It was like almost a year setting up. And I was just like, man, I miss seeing my kids. I've always dreamed about working with my kids and my family. And I was like, man, I am looking at YouTube daily going, how are these people doing it? Why do they seem like they have such a great, relaxed life? And I'm sitting here, like I said, juggling all these jobs and trying to get up a company.
Right.
So one day I was looking and I just said to myself, you know what? If they can do it, why can't I? So I called the kids. I called Marthel in. I called the kids. And in the midst of me telling the kids, I was like, guys, what do you think about us doing some skits, and just having some fun, we could just do these things because I'm seeing like these adults doing it. I thought, how much cuter would it be if kids were doing it?
Right.
Because my kids were a lot younger at the time than they are now. And I said, guys, listen, we don't even have to bring in daddy or anything because I was worried. I didn't want to tell him like, hey, by the way, I dragged you out of your 17-year career down to Florida so I can open a medical company. And now I want to just start doing YouTube. I was so nervous, but he walks in while I'm telling the children and he's listening and he goes, okay, when do you want to start? Let's go. And I was like, what? And from that, because at the time we were doing like superheroes, so he's like, let's go to Party City. And one thing about my husband is that he is a guy of action. I'm a researcher and planner, and I can research and plan all the live long day. But he is the one that's like, let's go, let's do this. And so I think the combination of us together, along with the kids, we just did it. And I always tell people it's a lot easier back then, but within 2 weeks, I quit my job, all my jobs. Within a month, paid off all my debt. And I actually had to make a decision, like, do I even want to do this medical company? And so I told my partners, who were doctors up at the time, listen, I don't want to do the clinical work, because that was supposed to be the thing. I was going to help do the clinical work, but be a partner and all this stuff. And I said, I'd rather just do the behind the scenes. And they were like, wait, but that's not what our deal was. Oh. You know, they were thinking we backed the money, and I would just get like this big percentage if I do the clinical work. But when it flipped now, where I had the money so I could buy into now the business, they didn't like that. And so they kind of try to back me into a corner. Why don't you just sell your shares? And so I said, okay. And I said,
they weren't expecting that.
No, they were not. They were like, what? But you know, it's like when you know what is for you, you just have to like tackle it. I just heard an actual saying today. I don't even know if I got the exact wording right, but it was basically the gist of focus is more important than intelligence.
Yep, I believe that.
I had to focus. It's like, I see this business, it's working. I get to do my dream of working with my kids. I went from not seeing them till, from the morning until the night, because I was working, going to see patients and things at the hospitals, the clinics, even homes, and then coming home and charting. So I'd be like gone from like 7 to 5, come home from maybe 5 to 6. I would feel guilty. I'd bring home some sort of fast food and then chart from like 6 to midnight or 1 o'clock and then do it daily. I was exhausted. And so that's basically how we got started. So we evolved from superheroes to 9 months after we started. I'm like, this is not really brandable. Like, how can we ever, like, 'cause I was looking at what other YouTubers were doing. I'm like, how can we ever go on tour with things that are not even our IP, our intellectual property? I said, we need something that just shows like that our name and our uniqueness. And so I called the kids in the room again. I'm the big meeting person. I know, Nick, you're related to that because you're just the same way.
I'm the exact same way. Yep. We just had a meeting a second ago. Yep.
We had one too today. So I said, listen, we need to come up with a name that would define us. And so we looked and we started thinking, and I said, well, what do you guys think about Onyx Kids? Because at the time it was like more of a kids channel. I said, Onyx it symbolizes us as jewels, as black jewels, because, Onyx comes in different colors, but a lot of people know the black one. And also I felt like my kids were my jewels. So I said, Onyx Kids. And they're like, cool. And then of course it evolved into Onyx Family. And then of course our huge, Onyx empire here. But that's basically how we got started.
I love that story. And so what I get from that is just taking bold action, because you took some bold action. When you go into one business, you think for sure this is going to be your business. This is the thing you're going to pursue, but you went in a whole different direction. And sometimes you just have to cut ties and go with where your heart is pulling you the most. And I got to commend your hubby too, because we call Martha when we have, done some work together, right? We've done collaborations, and now we took note from Marthel on how efficient he is with his work. So whenever I'm trying to get the family to be more efficient, I'll just say, Marthel. So that was like, he's a meme in the house. And now the kids will start doing it. So when Trey and I start talking or something, they'll say, well, what Mr. Marthel do? So I love it. But, I love that you, Rita, you are you're the founder and the visionary in the business. First off, let me just say this. I know we have had so many discussions, and I wanted to say, I know we've already discussed this, but the people don't know it. So, but I always look at you and I think about back in the day, I used to throw these theme parties, all kinds of theme parties, and I would invite a bunch of people over. I used to love to entertain. And there was so much work going on in the house right before the guests came. So, food's in the oven. We're still trying to get the decorations together, trying to clean up, make sure the drinks are ready to serve people when they come in. And it was just chaos right up until the moment the doorbell rang. But when the doorbell rang, we would let the people in calmly, give them a drink, make them comfortable. They would never know all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes, right? Because we want them to enjoy their experience. So that's how I am. But I related to you because for me, you always seem calm on the exterior, even though you've got a million projects that you're handling. So I think the average person wouldn't even understand, they wouldn't even believe how many things you're doing based on your calm demeanor. So I love that about you.
That is very funny because inside I feel like, it's a whirlwind.
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like, can I get my bearings? But,
right.
I'm really glad that that's what it appears.
Well, what you exude is control, that, you're handling all these projects and they're all under control. So I really take your example and put it into my YouTube journey as well. But I want to talk to you about this in stages. So first, we want to talk about how you go from just starting on YouTube, making zero, to making money, which happened quickly for you guys. So to making money and making a living where you can say, this is really a business for me. I can see this working as a business. So that's stage one. And then the next stage is going from making a living to making millions. So it's just a big, huge enterprise that you guys have now. So even though it was quick for you financially, did you envision your YouTube business expanding like it has?
No, everything is kind of like how you want to talk in stages. That's kind of how I even addressed everything in stages. It was like bit by bit, just kind of like, okay, one thing led into the next, into the next, into the next. It was just different for us because we did not have any mentors. We did not have any friends who were doing this.
Yeah.
In fact, we actually didn't tell any of our friends and family for a year.
Wow.
And, a lot of people are like, they engage their family and friends right away. But because I was in the medical field and Myrtle had been a pastor, we wanted to know where was this going before we told anybody. Because before, hey guys, we quit ministry and medicine for YouTube. It just didn't have that right ring. Right. Nowadays, like just 5 years later, now it's like everyone would be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Back then, it was like, what are you doing?
What exactly?
Yeah, but definitely, when we first started and we saw the money come in, there was no guarantee in our heads that this is how it would stay. Okay. But I was at a point in my life where I was like, you know what? I know I for sure don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. Yeah. And Myrtle had already left. Once you kind of leave that, you can't just go and say, hey, I changed my mind. It doesn't work like that, Yeah. He wanted to really support me. It wasn't a light decision. He wanted to support me because for so many years in our marriage, I had been basically moving around with him based off of, his schooling and where he was working and all of that. So he was like, you know what? I really want to support Rita. Okay. So I was so grateful and appreciative of that. So when we started making the money, I was like, oh man, thank God. But was there a guarantee? No, but you know what? I just said to myself, you know what? Even if things changed, I have now stepped into entrepreneurship and there was no turning back. So even if it wasn't this, I was going to do something else. And I got to say, prior to even that, I had started to look into entrepreneurship. And I would tell people that because people think, oh, my first go around, everything worked. Like I first started Amazon FBA. I said, no, this isn't for me. I started self-publishing, which later now fed into the books and the things that we're doing now. Okay. But at the time, I thought it was going to be like, that was the end all and be all, and I was just like, okay, drop shipping, no. But then I said, okay, we tried YouTube and that seemed to really hit. But then I always tell people, but a lot of people don't know, we tried it the first time and this story. And it did not work the first time. It was like, we all decided to do separate channels and we put it on this board and we were all gonna compete to see, how many subscribers and views and money we made. And because at the time you could make money right away, we were like, okay, I think it was Shasha got 26 cents and we partied. We partied like it was $1 million. We're like, oh my goodness, this thing worked. Right. And but so even with that, you would think, wow, she put out all these videos and got 26 cents. That should have even told me, why are you wasting your time with YouTube? But I just decided, again, let's because after a while we were like, this isn't really working. This is not really clicking. Why don't we try this again? And a few months, I did a little bit more research, and a few months later, we started our our Onyx brand. But the thing is, when we started making that money, I said, okay, how do we continue to expand? Because I didn't want this to be a 9-to-5 again. Yeah. I was very big in the beginning about it being a brand. Right. Because there's, 9-to-5s look different. You know, a 9 to 5, if you're just like working for the pay, work, pay, then what is the difference between that versus me going into another job?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But a brand endures. And I have seen now the power of a brand from the opportunities we've been given. There are things that you know about that are coming down the pipeline that are just amazing. I think that comes from a brand. And so there are things like right now, our kids, and we'll look at like trends and we'll say, is this going to help build our brand? Because if not, then we just kind of move on.
I love it. I love it. So you talked a little bit about something I want to jump into, the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So, you know, in that book, he talks about the 4 money quadrants, 4 ways you can make money in different quadrants. The first one being employee, then the next is self-employed, then the next is business owner, and then the next is investor. So most business owners want to move into those last 2 quadrants, right? Business owner and investor, because we know what an employee is. Self-employed is just a step up from employee. You're still working in the business, right? But business owner, you are pulling back and you're working on the business while other people work in the business for you. And investor, your money's just working for you, right? So we want to move into those last 2 quadrants. So the audience for In the Company of My Kids podcast are new to YouTube. They're looking to launch their business with their family on YouTube. So would you say that there is potential of moving into those last 2 quadrants, starting a business through YouTube?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you feel like you've become more hands-off as you've grown your business, or do you feel like you're still very much hands-on?
You know, the great thing about YouTube is that it gives that cash flow. You know, and people, especially like you who are familiar with real estate, know that term cash flow. I know they use that a lot with real estate, but basically you can do that with a lot of online businesses too, where it just kind of brings it in. Because once you build up a catalog and you get into an algorithm, you literally can just kind of say, okay, I don't have to work so hard. When we first started, I mean, we were uploading daily, sometimes twice a day. This was like in the summer. So
I didn't know that. Okay.
Like, we were, and this was like when we were still doing like the superhero stuff. And we had put our all into it. You know, there was just like a lot of time and energy. And then of course it was new. So it's kind of like, you know, everything was getting familiar. So now that things are more familiar, now that we've built a catalog, we basically upload when we want, and it requires very little maintenance. So I would definitely say that we are more in the business owner, definitely. But then this is an interesting business because when there are projects, then you all of a sudden start to feel self-employed again, because you gotta like show up on set, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. So we kind of cycle around, you know, to different things, and that's okay, because I never want to get back to though an employee.
Yes. I feel you. I understand that. And for me, I find that I enjoy working in the business of YouTube so much more than other businesses I've had. So sometimes, you know, even though you're a business owner, it's okay to do it just because you love it. So definitely we want to move into having more passive income, like you mentioned, but when we have to work in the business, it still works for me because I enjoy it. Now with YouTube, so there are different sources of revenue on YouTube, right? There's AdSense, there's Super Chat, memberships, and then there are different opportunities off of YouTube, right? Like brand deals, sponsorships, affiliates, merchandise. How do you decide which opportunities to pursue? Because you guys have done everything. Talk about some of the things you've done and how you decide which things to pursue.
You know, I always look at the value of how much time will this take and what's going to be the payoff. I don't go for the small deals. Okay, so it's going to sound a little weird, but just because of the way our trajectory was, we did not necessarily go certain steps. We kind of skipped over some things. So for example, I have like my cousin and other people I know that will do affiliate sort of deals. You know, they'll put something in there and then they get a proportion of, you know, whatever sales or percentage of sales. But we don't do that. We just kind of skip that and went straight to just brand deals where we get, you know, big lump sums for a video or an integration. That's kind of how I just do it from now. Based off of the numbers and based off of our time and everything, I feel like we really don't, I don't really feel that it's worth it to do things that are small, like, oh, you can get 5% or whatever. Like, it just doesn't make sense, because now I'm just promoting over and over and over this other brand That's another thing, like the 90% of our content is promoting who we are. If I do a sponsored video, that's one thing, hey, we're using it and we can do anything, and you've seen, like, we've done a lot with a lot of different companies.
Yeah.
But I don't want to have some link on my description, for like long periods of time, video after video after video. But I will say this, I think that works more if you're doing a vlog channel.
Okay.
If you're doing a vlog, then you're probably like doing a daily vlog, and then it seems to make more sense.
Because you don't want to overwhelm your audience.
Right. And then I feel like maybe it makes, so I guess maybe based off of the genre, maybe it makes more sense,
Right.
But typically, I will choose high value, like high paying, and just ignore all the smaller ones, because the way I look at it, there's a dime a dozen smaller channels that can do the same thing for that price.
Gotcha. Got it. So, but you still do have multiple sources of income because you guys are involved in so many different things. Can you say how many sources of income you have right now?
Oh my goodness.
Have you thought about it?
I haven't really thought about it. Like, so there's AdSense, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's distribution. And I mean, and I'm saying this is just in general to the media company that we have. So there's AdSense, there's distribution.
When you say distribution, explain that for us.
Okay, so distribution would mean our content on other platforms.
Okay.
So like Roku and a bunch of other platforms. I had a meeting with a company that we work with, and they were saying that our stuff is on 25 different platforms. And I was like, I can't even name 25. So I don't really, so like they give me an email to say, oh, your stuff is on this now, but I just don't really remember. I know it's like on Hulu and Amazon and things like that, but there, I guess, are other ones. So that's distribution. Then there is, of course, brand deals.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's merchandise sales, book sales. What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something, but those are like some of the major ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember what are some other ones.
That's fine. Yeah, I just wanted you to speak. I mean, I know there's value in having, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, right? Because who knows what's going to happen. We love YouTube and that is the start of where we are making money in this business, but it's always wise to launch different types of monetization sources, because when one might dry up, you still have these other things going on. So I just want you to speak to that. So next question I want to ask you. So, okay, you're the founder, I would say you're the visionary of the business of Onyx Family. At this point for you, it might be different, but what I found is, working toward making money on YouTube, the main person who is like the visionary or the founder, when they're, looking to make money through YouTube, they are the agent for the family. So they're seeking deals. They're the manager. They're facilitating the deals. They're the videographer recording the videos, or the editor sometimes. They're doing hair and makeup, for the family sometimes. If you have younger kids, and that person's probably the wrangler, making sure the kids stay focused. They might be acting in the video. They're the back-end person handling the systems, like the sending emails out to your list or handling social media and bookkeeping. And sometimes the kids just come in for the acting portion. So the person running the business could justifiably take a percentage for each of those roles. They might take 15% for agent, 15% for manager, and down the line. So how do you handle that? How do you break out the percentages of profit that each family member gets and make sure everyone on the family gets, a fair amount?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. So when we first started, obviously it was like, whoa, I didn't know. I mean, I knew you got paid on YouTube, but I had no clue what it could actually pay.
Okay.
And once we found that out, it was like, and my first time I had to pay taxes on it, I was like, wait, what?
Right.
I have to pay this much? Oh, we got to do something different. Okay. So then I learned about incorporating and all that stuff. So, because I had always looked at incorporating, like, let's say for the medical company, I never knew just like Rita, can go in and incorporate a business,
Yep.
Just, you don't know these things. So when I did that, I immediately made sure that we all had a certain percentage of our company so that the kids always felt like they were working for them as well,
So even in the documentation of the business structure says right there what percentage everybody's getting.
Yes, because I felt that it was very important, because I I want them to not feel like, oh, I'm working for mom and dad, but that they're working for themselves, but also the family. So that everybody feels like if I don't do my part, then I'm not just hurting myself, I am hurting the rest of the family, you know. But so that's the one part. So now when it came to the pay, it's an interesting thing because you're balancing percentages, but there's so much that goes back into the business. That's one thing I learned when I first started working for myself, was that most of the money goes back into the business. And so the percentages pretty much change. Now they're able to get we're all able to get a greater percentage, but at first it was just kind of reinvesting and figuring out like, okay, just how does this all work? Because I remember talking to a financial advisor a few years ago, and they were saying basically the first couple of years, he was even saying maybe even up to 3 to 4 years of being an entrepreneur, like it's like a wash. Yeah. You don't really start really building it until you get those first few years, kind of like you get adjusted with the taxes and the reinvesting and all of that. So right now though, I did actually hire a business manager. Okay. We basically were doing it ourselves, but now we have a business manager, and he's basically kind of revamping all the percentages again, because now my children are even older. So that was another thing. So when they were younger, it was like, the percentages, it looks different. It's like you're putting it in like this savings account, but now they're spenders because now they're older. Yeah. So now, there's a part for spending. So it all changes year to year.
That makes sense. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And your percentages, I'm guessing, would change once you start bringing on more help, like that business manager.
Right, exactly.
Right. Okay.
And there's always a trade-off, because it's like you want the help, but then that money has got to go to get that help. So
exactly. All right, we were talking about how the percentages are divided and how you manage to make sure everyone gets their fair share in business. So I want to talk about the work itself. Working in a business with your family, your kids specifically. Tell me about how they play into the business behind the scenes. Do they each have a role? Does the work, change based on the project? How do you manage that?
Well, one of the ways that we, again, started, I started with doing the research myself, learning about YouTube, about everything about it. And that continues to this day. I'm usually the researcher. But what I did early on was I started the kids learning about the business, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera. So I taught them how to edit, taught them how to make thumbnails. I taught them about search engine optimization, and I taught them even about camera settings. I remember looking up, and this is the thing, everything I would do, it was because I would look at really successful channels and I go, hey, is our camera quality as good? You know what? Let me figure out now what we should do for the camera. Yeah. So I'd research it, look it up, then teach them. Right. Same thing about the audio, everything, so that then they can now use these tools and then handle the business, without me having to be in every single part of it. Right. Because at the time we started, I was still, even though it was still only 2 weeks, I still was juggling all those jobs. Yeah. So I didn't have the time to do everything. And I really wanted them to take ownership. And I also felt like, man, this is probably going to be skills that can really serve them as they continue to get older. So it didn't make sense for me to be like, okay, I'm going to do everything myself. I wanted them from the jump to just be like, okay, I know what to do.
I love it. I love it. Do you feel like you can walk away now and they can run it without you there?
I do. I really do. Okay. I think that we all have a role. Okay. And I think that my role, I do the research, but then I also do all the deals. I do that really high level thinking. But when it comes to the creativity between my husband and them, it's all covered.
I love it. I love it. And do you think their age plays into that? Your kids are a little older than mine. So we didn't even say when you got started. How long have you been at this? And how old was your youngest when you got started?
So we started in 2016. Okay. So 5 years. But it's funny because it could be but then you could also think, wow, 5 years. It's like you think both. At the time, Shiloh was 9. Okay, 9-year-old. My youngest. And so then I had a 13-year-old. Yep. And then I had, how old was Sinead? Sinead would have been 16, and then Shalom was 17.
Gotcha. And even your youngest, at 9 years old, you were able to teach Shiloh how to do the editing and thumbnails and all that.
Well, honestly, he did not learn as quickly as them. We would start him on it, but I mean, honestly, I look at what Nadia does and I'm like stunned. He was not like that at 9. He's like that now, but and then maybe the last couple of years, but not at 9. So it was more the older kids, the 3 girls.
Got it. Yeah, but I mean, I have definitely taken, just looking at your family and your kids and what they've done always encourages me to teach my kids, I do believe as a business owner, regardless of the business that you're in, as a parent, your kids are going to be around it. I always say that, kids learn business either through nature or nurture, right? So even if they aren't necessarily by nature entrepreneurial minded, by nurture, because they are around you and your business all the time, they're going to learn those skills. They're going to pick up on different aspects of the business as they go along. But just watching you guys have been such an example for my kids. So I see their work ethic. I see how hard they're working and all the different things they're doing. So you encourage us quite a bit. So I appreciate that. So I was just going to ask you, so you guys keep a lot of things in-house. You handle a lot of work yourself. Do you outsource anything? What are you outsourcing right now?
And we've tried over the years to outsource more than we have. I don't know. There's a sense of liking the control, of having a vision in your head of how this video should go versus giving it to someone else. But right now I would say, like my husband, he's working with an editor, thanks to you. We've tried, I think, editors for other channels, but either their schedule hasn't been, it just never that it's lined up right. But I would say one of the biggest things we outsourced first was having an agent to actually, and I think I told you this the other day. I told somebody this the other day. I only negotiated one brand deal.
Yep, you told me.
Right. And then, so for the last several years, it's just been my agent. And that has taken a load off of me because I feel very I don't think I'd want to go in after the deals per se. Now, I have actually made certain strategic calls and introductions of our brand to different people, which furthered other relationships that I can use. So now we don't do distribution ourselves. I have a company I work with, Pocket Watch, that does that. And I was with Studio 71 before that did that. And then translation services, like I have people who do translation, which that was another recommendation from you. So, Nikki's full of resources.
I try. I just share what I learned. What I learned, I just pass it on.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's stuff like that. But when it comes to the creative, when it comes to the book writing, I even do the editing for the books. We make our own covers. We do pretty much everything. We know, though, that we've got to let go more in order to be able to expand. So it's slowly happening.
Gotcha. So what do you think is a good time to get an agent?
Oh my goodness. If you could get one ASAP, I always feel like get it because they are so networked. That's the thing about it. They know the companies, they know people. One thing I've learned about this whole industry is small. It's so small. Everybody knows each other and they all bounce around from different agencies and MCNs. And so they all know each other everywhere. So that's why it's you want a good name because people talk. Yeah. And they will get to know who you are and your brand. But I would say as soon as possible. The caveat though is that not a lot of agents want to work with a smaller channel because they feel that they won't even be able to negotiate a big deal. So it's kind of like you have to wait till you get to a certain amount. But once you can, I would get it as soon as possible. Got
it. So do they look for certain benchmarks or does it depend on the agent?
I think it depends on the agent, but I think if you have at least, and this is the thing, you can get an agent just for social media. So let's just say you have 50,000 or 100,000 subscribers or followers. I feel like that's a great starting point. Okay. And looking for an agent.
Gotcha. Okay, good stuff. So I have to say this, that brand deals don't always depend on, or I should say deals that you get outside of YouTube AdSense, it doesn't always depend on your channel size or your viewer count. have you been surprised by some of the deals that have come your way? I mean, you still grew fast though, but something shocked you? Like, I can't believe they're bringing me this deal. Or has everything been like...
In a good way or a bad way?
In a good way.
Oh, yeah. I remember a few years ago, we had this deal with NBC. It was like The Voice. Yeah, I think it was The Voice. Maybe just like that. And I remember that was one of our, at the time, the biggest hit. And I was like, when I heard the number, I was like, what? Like, and this is like a regular thing, because the agent at the time was like, yeah, well, this is what some creators get all the time. And I was like, excuse me?
Right.
Like, so it happens a lot, where I'm really, really shocked that people get so much money. Now, I think different genres, though, you get more if you're in different genres.
Right.
Where I'm still surprised with too is, though, when people come on the opposite end. Like really, really, really small amounts. Like, hey, you do this, we'll give you $200.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, you must be new in this business,
right?
Because you're really not looking at what the rates are, and it's like, you can't let your pride get to you at all. It's just more like, maybe they're just not knowledgeable. But I am surprised, because it just makes me laugh. Because you have to get to a point in this business, I feel, where you have to recognize not all money is good money. Mm-hmm. And you gotta really, pick, choose, and refuse, because if you say yes to everything, this is what my agent told me years ago. If you say yes, everyone will know that you said yes to this small deal.
That's true.
But on the flip side, with the, we haven't said we're in a recession, but I'm like, we're in a weird financial place right now, right?
That's a good way to say it. Yep.
And you have to now adjust.
Yeah.
So like last year during the thick of the things with the pandemic for us in the US, brand deals had kind of stopped for like months. Wow. Then when they started, it was like we had to, take a little bit lower at first, because companies were getting their bearings, and, then all of a sudden it exploded again, and then it went back to normal. But I always feel like you got to adapt.
Yes. That's true. And that leads me to my next question, which a lot of people have. So YouTube can fluctuate, right? There's no guarantee of income month to month. And a lot of people avoid pursuing money in creative ways, like becoming a YouTuber, because of the lack of guaranteed income. So since you can't predict future earnings on YouTube, do you feel like you rely on it still? Do you fear it drying up? How do you maintain a level of monthly consistency?
That's a very good question. 5 years into this, and I think I can honestly say it's consistent. 5 long years, monthly, through the ups, through the downs.
Right.
And YouTube has changed a lot of policies. Mm-hmm. And so some genres have been able to explode. Some just faded off the scene. Mm-hmm. And so as long as you have your brand, I feel that you can weather through anything, because you would be so surprised at the opportunities that are given you. And so I always also say this, just because you had a 9-to-5 does not mean it's more consistent or it's more stable. So many people have lost a 9-to-5. Right. When I first got into it, I was a nurse practitioner. It was like you could get a job very easily. Now I haven't been a nurse practitioner for like over 5 years, but I have heard of other people who are still like some of my colleagues and new graduates, they're not able to get a job anymore.
Wow.
They're having to work as an RN, even though they got their NP. So it's like nothing is really secure. So it's all about what you make of it and what you can do. Because if you think 9-to-5, I'm sorry, I've seen plenty of people lose their jobs like that. So I always get that from people at first, not so much anymore, but I remember at first when we started, Rita, do you still have your licensing? Do you still have your certification? And it was like, I left it. I was done. I didn't have that safety net, because I knew that was not going to be any more consistent for me in my mind frame. I knew that I could make almost anything consistent as long as I was focused.
I love it. And I do think, compared to a job, there's so much potential in this field. in this field of YouTube and the entertainment business and all the different directions it can take you in. Whereas a lot of times with employment, you know, there's a ceiling. You're only going to go so far. So you can't control your income as much as you can on this side. So yeah, I hear you. I love that. Okay, so I'm wrapping up. I just want to ask you, if you were starting on YouTube today, what do you wish you could go back and tell yourself? Go back and tell yourself your early
YouTube. It kind of goes back to your question you just said. I would say be patient, write it out. Write out the problems, because if you had asked me that maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago, you know, are you afraid it will fade? I would have said yes, just because of all of the policy changes, and I didn't really know where we would land. And now we've been through so many things on YouTube.
Yeah.
I would just tell myself, write it out.
Yeah.
Be consistent. Don't even think about giving up. Just be patient and just believe in your mission, which is, you know, your brand. Yeah. Believe in it and know that if you believe in it, others will buy into it too, and you will see the payoff. You'll see it in so many ways.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. I love it. I love it. So Rita, what's next for Onyx Family? You guys are always tackling some kind of fun projects. So many different things you guys get involved in. Can you tell us what's next?
Oh yeah. Well, so we're going to be starting to film our talk show, Onyx Family Dinner, in a couple months. And we're going to be doing that. And season 2 of our cartoon will be coming out in the fall. And so those are basically the 2 immediate things that we're working on. Season 1 is still on Amazon. It's actually expanding to a bunch of other different platforms that we can announce soon. But yeah, that's basically what we have going. And of course, our regular Onyx Family YouTube stuff. And another big thing is our daughter, Shasha. She has launched her Cardionics app, her fitness app. So we are in the midst of promoting that. So yeah, we're having fun. That's the biggest thing that we love about our business. We have fun.
And working with family, that's fun. As long as you like your family, but you guys seem to be very close. Good stuff. Thank you so much, Rita. This was such good information. I know it's going to help everybody who is getting started on YouTube and wondering how they can get to this point of monetization and start making money in different ways. And where's it going to lead? But you're such a great example of that. So thank you. Thanks for paving the way, and thanks for taking some time to talk to us today.
Well, thank you. And we need a part 2 on this.
I would love to, because, I really would love to talk about branding, because the Onyx brand is awesome. So I'm sure the audience would love to hear your tips on branding. So maybe we'll do that another day.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that, because I think that whoever is doing anything online, branding is the key.
Yes, very true. All right. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.